Okay, thanks for inviting me and good to be here. Our project is about tactical horticulture water decisions in Northern Victoria, fruit tree irrigation and some other management responses. And so, sorry, I should acknowledge that Runlan and Ian and Mark are my collaborators and co-authors, and they're all here today, which is great. So, horticultural industries depend on irrigation, water supply and prices vary with drought. We've still got memories of the millennium drought. Consumptive water saving, deficit irrigation was the main or the original reason for us doing this project. But as we talked to Ian and Mark a bit more, we realised that thinning of trees is an interactive management decision with deficit irrigation. And so that's an option that we've included. And also growers in a dry year, if they've got some their entitlement and allocation and it's a low allocation for that year, they might want to go and buy water, purchase temporary water. And so we've also included that in our thinking. And so the question is, this is for perennial horticulture, it's tactical within year decisions, and what are their options in these dry years and what might we look at in terms of economic outcomes? And so the profitabilities and the trade-offs, if you like. So these deficit irrigation management that we looked at, regulated deficit irrigation, post-harvest deficit irrigation, sustained deficit irrigation, or parking the tree. So those are the deficit irrigation strategies, but Mark and Ian in a publication nicely conceptualised the issues. And so we've got here from their work, we've got relative yield on the x-axis and fruit size on the y-axis. So that's quantity and quality of output. And the rays from the origin are different levels of thinning. And so we can see this, they relate as well. And then those boundaries the boundaries are basically for different levels of water. So as we reduce the water that's available to us, and as we do thinning, that has an impact on fruit yield and fruit quality in terms of fruit size. So the question is, how do we bring all those things together and quantify them, if you like, in terms of economic outcomes? And I was just thinking before, as I was listening to the others, that maybe that's a major thing where we add value by quantifying all these factors in management and in a biophysical and economic framework. And so what we've done, we're using a whole farm analysis, and we're going to set up a base farm with apples, pears and peaches on something like 40 hectares. We're going to look at the crop outcomes in terms of yield and quality, and they depend on the water input. But if we've got scarce water in dry years, we want to look at the options. And so because we're looking at what we're best to do with a scarce resource in any year, and we're interested in profits, we're using an optimising approach. So we're going to optimise management in any year as a tactical response. And so there's all these interactions of tree thinning and deficit irrigation on these outcomes. And we're going to add these temporary water purchases, and of course the water purchase decision very much depended on how much you would have to pay. So if the price is very high, so if you have a dry year where you don't have a very high allocation, you've got restricted water, you might consider undertaking the deficit irrigation strategies, and they will vary between apples, pears and peaches. You could consider then purchasing temporary water, but if the price is very high, maybe it's not worthwhile. If the price is lower, it could be worthwhile. So this sort of analysis will allow us to do some trade-offs, or look at the trade-offs between the price of purchasing temporary water interacting with those other tactical management decisions. So here's the first set, this is for apples, the first set of results that we have, and on the x-axis there we've got, this is thinning. So it's the number of fruit per trunk cross-sectional area. So the lower number is a higher level of thinning, there's less fruit. And the higher number to the right is a lower level of thinning, and we're measuring here fruit weight. That's the mean fruit weight, so that's actually yield That's the aggregate yield of how much fruit we get tonnes per hectare. And so we see there's a negative relationship as we've drawn the graphs and the axes here, which we might expect. So that as we have a high level of thinning, so the number of fruit is low, say 3, then we might get more. Oh, this is individual fruit weight, I'm sorry. We might get a higher fruit weight for individuals, and that reduces as we do less thinning. Is that right, Rowan? Yeah. And so we can see the interaction there with the different lines, which are the different levels of deficit irrigation. So as we have less and less water available, the lines come back towards the origin there. So that's the first relationship. Second relationship is fruit yield kilograms per tree. And so we see that as we do more thinning to the left, the 3, then we're going to get lower yields, and as we do less thinning, we're going to get higher yields. We would expect that positive relationship. And again, we can see the differences as we do different levels of deficit irrigation. And I guess one of the really important things analytically is how big is the difference between those lines. Okay, in a management sense, that would become important. The next relationship we've got is, this is the crop water applied over the season under those different deficit irrigation strategies. So if we've got full irrigation, which is the pink line, crop water availability of 100%, we'll apply more water, and then the orange dashed line is 70%. Again, we would expect those that as we're applying less, we've got less that we can have available for our crop. When we bring it all together, this is the gross margin when we count for thinning. This is the gross margin for apple, dollars per hectare, as we interact thinning and deficit management to produce the gross margin. So we can see there that there's some sort of an optimum level in the middle of the thinning, where the gross margins are higher than as we go to less thinning, the gross margins coming down again. But remember, these gross margins account for quality. So they'll account for, if we have lower fruit size, there'll be a different price. So these are the gross margins that account for quality, quantity, thinning, and water availability. So basically, these are really central relationships to our model, and we're still finalising the model. We've got the apple done now, and we're doing peaches and pears at the moment, and they will be very, very soon. And we'll put them together in a full model, and we'll be able to then, because it's a constrained optimising model, we can change the level of water input and solve the model for different levels of water input. And so we're going to generate a total farm gross margin as for those different water management, water inputs, and our management responses to those water inputs. So we're going to test this best or profit tactical management, including those factors, including that factor, and then we'll add our temporary water purchases as well, and vary the price. And so we look at this trade-off, these potential trade-offs between these management. So that's where we're up to. We haven't finished the model yet. Once we've finished the model, it will be very easy to generate the results and produce some interesting things for discussion. But I guess we would say that this information could be useful for orchardists, could be interesting even for researchers in terms of setting up further research. Some of these factors we might see from the results that there are some factors that need a bit more research. So those are two possible, and extension processes as well.